yet another session of Crypto Spotlight series, or the Fireside Chat series, as we call it. After a couple of years of the frenzy, the crypto frenzy, the bull run, the market has finally come back to normalcy. I don't know about you, but I am definitely having a wonderful time during this phase, because this means that we get time to sit back and build. This means that we get to think. This means that as an investor, I get to imagine the whole landscape in my own time before I make an investment. So while the noise is already withered away, I can already see only the serious and the mature players. Only the ones that you would have seen coming to the Crypto Spotlight series, hitting it at the opportunity with full swing, right? We call them as the believers in the idea of Web3. Yeah, but I think there's this new hot buzzword that's replaced Web3 in a lot of ways. That's come together with Web3 in a lot of ways. And today we're going to have another go-getter from an absolute winning team with us. So we have the founder of Metapolis, who's going towards broader you know the broader promise of the immersive internet. Welcome, Mohan Kuldeep. We're lovely to have you today.
Hi Akshay. Hi everyone. Thanks a lot for having me here, guys. I'm thrilled to be here.
Mhm. So by the way, let me give an introduction outside of what you'll see from the professional ones. So Mohan has been one of the folks that I've been chasing for the last 6 months, right? For one reason or the other, and that's majorly because he, every time I speak to him, his team, at least grows by a factor of two, right? So I remember the first time we connected was probably under 5 people, and today, our probably 10th or 11th chat, and he's already upwards of 50 team members, I'm guessing.
No,
Uh,
we are close to 100 now. But thanks, Akshay.
exactly. So the multiple, that's exactly
Yes.
what I was, insinuating towards. But again, welcome, Mohan. How's it going? I hear you're making waves across the globe.
Thanks, Akshay. Thanks for having me here again. And as always, it's a pleasure talking to you. Uh, we are doing quite well. Actually, the metric that you talked about, it's a quite a good metric to have in a space like this. It shows that there's healthy growth. It's organic growth. We are able to inspire like-minded people to come join us in this vision to build the next iteration of internet as we know it.
Hmm.
So it's fun time. We I always keep telling everyone, including my team, that you have to really put your heart and soul into what you're doing, and you can only do it when you love it. So here I am with the team of 90 plus people who just love what they're doing, and I can't ask for something better.
No, I've really followed you, right? And I think your passion for the metaverse, the VR space, and the new evolution, as they say it, as metaverse being VR 2.0. I think I see that sort of getting realized, and obviously all the frenzy and everything supporting it. But tell me one thing: what's with metaverse? I think everything else in the open web ecosystem has sort of dried down in terms of attention, but Metaverse is kind of still sticking to everyone's attention. Is Metaverse really at that point wherein blockchain was in probably the end of 2016, early 2017?
I I love that question, and there's so much that's flooding my brain right now, and I want to talk a lot, but I'm just
Uh,
trying to find words that can just be really helpful to the audience. See, actually, I want to go back to your starting statement when you said something so brilliantly. You said that this is the time when serious people are sticking to this, and then that's when the growth happens, which is absolutely right, because this is the time for absolute mature people, and this is the time to build. So people right now are actually building some really really great stuff. Now, talking about the building aspect of it, uh, metaverse isn't a new term, actually, if you see it that way. And to break it down, a very small introduction to that is that Neil Stephenson introduced this term called metaverse in his science fiction novel called Snow Crash, and this was way back in 1992.
wow.
And
Hmm.
that's when the term started, right? and then the internet came along. I can talk about this for 2 hours, but I'm going to just quickly jump. Internet came along, and then the nature of the internet itself is to connect, right? But
Mm-hmm.
internet has been successful in connecting computers, devices.
Mm-hmm.
But metaverse is the iteration of internet as we know it. So it is about connecting people, connecting
Mm-hmm.
humans. So the reason why, regardless of how other projects in Web3 are doing, and I'm sure it's a cycle and serious players are building it, and in the next cycle they will all come back up. Metaverse is sticking because it's experiential internet. It's about
Mm-hmm.
driving meaningful experiences that lets people derive more out of what you're already doing. Actually, the way we say it internally is that metaverse is not something that is going to replace the internet. It is
Mm-hmm.
something that's going to extend the current internet as we know it, and then take it many notches higher.
Mm-hmm.
So, like building Disneyland, your favorite amusement park online, right? I mean, that's why that's why it's growing so fast.
Mm-hmm. And so would you say that there's a lot happening that probably justifies the street cred metaverse is gaining?
Absolutely. A lot. There's so much going on right now. In fact, really smart big players in this space that we work with constantly are building some core pieces of technology that are going to power the metaverse, as we
Mm-hmm.
are going to see very soon. In fact, just a couple of days ago, I was talking to one of our clients, and then they happen to be a very large company, a global company, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised at how they see it, right? They see it. This is a statement, and I quote: "They're saying that this is not the future; this is the present." So
Mm-hmm.
brands, partners, companies, global, they are all working towards building this metaverse. So the work
Sure.
is real, and actually, why it is so real is because the target audience for the metaverse is the millennial segment who are digital natives to the metaverse. So if you
Mm-hmm.
find maybe 5 7 years ago, there are a lot of digital natives who started off on platforms like Roblox, who have now
Uh-huh.
become decision makers, and they identify themselves as the metaverse natives, right?
Yeah.
Not just that, in the entire, and this is something that a lot of players do not know yet, maybe because of lack of information. Out of the 5 odd billion users of the internet, 3.2 billion users are gamers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a huge market. They are all digital natives, and they are metaverse natives. They
Mm-hmm.
are there, and from the very beginning they have been accumulating wealth inside their games, whether it is a sword or a special ammunition or a special suit. They are used to that, and now
Absolutely.
brands are seeing the space where they are reaching out to these millennials, and that's where it's growing so fast, and it will grow exponentially faster.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the the lucky ones that get to spend time. I think we may be able to play the game, but definitely we're buying some of those assets to play it at the levels that they have gained expertise to, right?
Yeah.
But again, Mohan, it's always fun talking with you. I think the community loves you. So before we delve onto some of your other theses, right? I would love to for everyone to first relate to who you are, where you come from, and specifically when and how did the metaverse bug bit you or bite you. I know you're one of the early ones. At least from the Indian ecosystem standpoint, there'll be many other challenges globally, but I'd love to for everyone to hear your story out.
Yeah, so thanks, Akshay. I think this is a good platform to talk about my entrepreneurial journey as well. So
Hmm.
this is not new. I did not get into this space because it started getting that attention. In fact, I have been in this space for a very long time. My
Hmm.
obsession with the metaverse, what we call metaverse today, is been for a very long time, right?
Hmm.
When I was very young, I remember growing up watching TV shows like Superhuman Samurai and the Centurions, and
Uh-huh.
oh, beautiful days, right? I used to wake up at 5 in the morning because there was a cartoon called Voltron, which
Uh-huh.
which was on Star Plus, and I remember my dad saying, "Why the hell are you up at 5 in the morning watching?" But and then watching movies where a lot of sci-fi. I knew I belonged here, and this is sort of a calling for me. This is
Uh-huh.
not new. And in fact, when I went for my undergraduation in Australia, in my
Mm-hmm.
first year, second year of undergraduation, I did a lot of research on transmitting data on 4G systems. At that
Uh-huh.
point, 4G wasn't still live. So I was so keen about this that I wanted to start working in this space. I have good publications and research around transmitting data on multimedia on 3G and mobile systems, because I understand that the biggest challenges for something to grow at this space is to understand the infrastructure of it, right? If you don't have the rail tracks, you can never have a railway ecosystem. So I kept working on this for a long, long, long time. It is not something that is new. But then
Mm-hmm.
eventually I started working towards it. I started building companies around it. um, in fact, a lot of books around this. I grew up reading books written by legends, uh, being great entrepreneurs, building something that disrupts the market, disrupt the
Mm-hmm.
industry, creating new value for users. And also, while knowing that this is where I belong, I also started working towards understanding the value proposition that I want to build to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hell bent. So to do that, I also understood that I had to have very strong technology core, because without
Mm-hmm.
that, I would not be able to build something meaningful, and I would always have to rely on someone who knows this technology better.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
chose the route of technology. In fact, I've been very passionate about technology, thanks to my dad, uh, for making this a very early thing for me. And I started building stuff, tinkering stuff, writing word editors, writing programs, selling them. And over the last 14 years, I've just been building and selling companies, building large scale systems. So I've dabbled across urban transportation, healthcare, uh, education, hardware, everything that leads me to today.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are, because I wanted to get every piece right. Because if you look at my journey, every company that I worked on builds a piece of what I'm doing today, including
Mm-hmm.
taking scaling to billions of data points, large scale systems, loads.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's fun journey. I think that should be a different topic, but thanks for asking.
No, I mean, Mohan, there's quite a lot of depth in the kind of work you've done, and I see that, when I get to witness you conversing with some of the other founders, the conversations just grow magical with some of the brilliant minds coming together. Tell me a little bit about the idea of metaverse and Web3 being different and same, because I see them quite relating to each other in a lot of ways. While I see Web3 being an open version to the internet with
Yeah.
finance and information both being core to it, metaverse being as a more immersive version of the internet, right? So kind of like where I mentioned VR 2.0 being the theme which enables you to be a part of the experience. But I see a lot of these interchangeable things. So somewhere these two collide. Tell me a bit about how do you see these two coming together, or being different.
Great, great. I love the questions you have curated. Actually, this is
Hmm.
brilliant. Um,
Hmm.
See, right now, currently, the way I see it, and I keep saying this all the time, and I even years ago I used to rub this on my brother and my wife, my friends. I used to say that even we are currently digitally colonized. Like
Hmm.
you are a part of the Facebook
Interesting.
kingdom or Apple kingdom
Uh-huh.
or TikTok
Love that
kingdom.
word. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You are spending
Uh-huh.
more time there, which in return of your time, they are giving you the experience, right?
Hmm.
So now this becomes a fight between experience versus value, and the
Hmm.
currency there being the time and your attention, right?
Hmm.
So right now, what's happening is that the large players in this space own the biggest chunk of it, and that's how Web 2 evolved. I mean, it's not because they are spending so much money and time and resources on building an experience. And if you rewind to the late 90s and early 2000s, internet was built as a free platform, so nobody was willing to pay. And then companies
Hmm.
had to come up with innovative ways where they had to monetize it, and then data became the currency, time and
Exactly.
attention.
Hmm.
But bringing that perspective, and that is a step further, that is where Web3 becomes a very big iteration, a giant leap of sorts,
Mm-hmm.
because you're saying that it is decentralized, and
Mm-hmm.
people, and it's non tamper proof, and then people, it's a, and entities, corporations are accountable for the time that you're
Mm-hmm.
putting. So Web3 essentially is something that allows users, so I wouldn't say users, I think it's a very that's a very generic term, people, to be a part of the success. So if, for
Sure.
example, I am on a social network and then I'm being shown an ad, I get no share of that percentage, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, the other day we were putting out an ad post for a job, and then we had to pay
Mm-hmm.
roughly about $4 per post, right, per
Mm-hmm.
click.
Mm-hmm.
But people who watched that ad had no, or clicked on it, had no um, stake in it. But
Uh-huh.
Web3 kind of changes that equation, and that is why it is so good for the metaverse itself. But that
For
does
sure.
not mean that the metaverse cannot exist without Web3. Metaverse in itself
Absolutely.
can exist by itself, but
Uh-huh.
metaverse with Web3 becomes a very, very powerful medium, because it allows users, sorry, it
Mm-hmm.
allows people to
Mm-hmm.
be a part of the ecosystem and to actually own it. And that's what we are so
Absolutely.
passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
true
and so
democracy.
that makes that makes a lot of sense. So tell me a bit about you know, in the future, how do you see uh, you know, the metaverse being closed or open? Do you think it's going to be as open as Web3 is, or mind you, the adoption of some of the core, the closed metaverses, the Fortnites are at a crazy level. So we're not getting there immediately. So let's not
Yeah.
talk near term. But let's say 5 years down the line, do you see the Fortnites or the Robloxes winning, or do you see the Decentralands and the Sandbox is sort of pulling some attention, or pulling the center of the whole I would say the meta universe, so to say, towards themselves.
I have a completely different take on this, by
Uh-huh.
the way. Actually,
Uh,
the pie is so large that there is space for so many players. But before I
uh-huh.
get there, for the benefit of all the viewers, I want to make something very clear. And this is what we keep iterating in our core team internally.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how there is one internet, there is going to be one metaverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Metaverse is an iteration of the internet. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. What you're going to see on top of metaverse, just like what you have akin to the websites of today, you're going to have the cities or
Mm-hmm.
experiences. So any one entity calling them the metaverse doesn't make it the metaverse, makes it an experience on top of the metaverse. That's the first point that everyone has to understand. It's marketed that way.
Mm-hmm.
But coming to a question of open versus closed, see, there are certain experiences where companies might want to go in and say, look, I want to have a walled garden. um,
Yeah.
and and in one perspective, if you look at it, it's not wrong. I'll come to that in a minute. But on the
Mm-hmm.
other side, there might be some companies that will come in and say, look, this is going to be a completely free and open, non open space for you to come and
Yeah.
explore.
Yeah.
Both have their own pros and cons, and both have their own markets. One
Uh-huh.
example for the open is quite easy to understand, right? It's true democracy. Everybody's invested. Everyone has a stake in it, either through a digital asset as an NFT, or a virtual land parcel, or a token or a currency, or through whatever means. But
Mm-hmm.
talking about the example of a closed metaverse, that is more akin to, let's say, for example, ultra luxury brands. For example,
Mm-hmm.
there are communities in the world today who want to have a closed experience, and
For
they
sure.
are willing to spend millions of dollars on it, right? I mean, uh, that exists. That market exists. It is for any
Sadly, it
business.
does.
It does. It does. It as a business, uh, in the ecosystem of business, rather, there are people on both sides of the spectrum. There will
Yeah.
be players who will come in on one side and say, look, I am going to cater to one side of the spectrum, which has to be closed, because I'm going
Uh-huh.
to charge, let's say, $2 million to get into that space. And
Sure.
anybody who can afford $2 million, you are welcome to come in. So it's not closed in
Sure.
that sense, right? But
Yeah.
on the other side, there are going to be experiences that will say, look, everything is open and you are welcome to come in, just because You can have a very small NFT in it, and you're welcome to come in it. But regardless of what it is, the iteration of this internet is going to have the players, the people themselves having some sort of equity. When I say equity, not money wise, but some sort of interest or ownership in there. That's
So
why
do you?
sorry actually, that's why interoperability becomes such a big point for Metapolis.
No, no, complete. I think you're preaching to the choir. I remember, 2019 when the world seemed to be crashing, especially in India with the ban and everything. I think one of the terms that we coined, and interestingly, within the team, I joke a lot that when you see these terms getting coined, or when you see me doing poetry, just understand the world is really going down, because that's when the philosophy really comes out, right? But
Yeah, that's true.
so we coined the term conscious decentralization, which was the idea was that we're looking at private companies on one end, and then we're seeing things moving towards absolute decentralization on the other, but it's not really binary. The use
Yeah,
cases lie between the whole spectrum, and this is there are going to be multiple use cases that suit the closed environment, and there's going to be use cases that are perfect for the open environment, right? For example, Gmail just works for me when I'm a part of blockchain India, and Microsoft Exchange, which is painstaking. I don't know why it exists, but Microsoft Exchange becomes so much powerful when I'm part of the Draper Dragon fund. But
yeah,
honestly, I'm a fan of both executions, because it's mainly about the environment, mainly about the use case, and we've got to live up to what that presents. But again, I think talking about presentation, Mohan, I don't know where you get it from. The intro video on the Metaverse, on the Metapolis, I think it was just spectacular, right? I was reminded by this showcasing abilities at the times when Steve Jobs used to launch the iPhone, right? Every version used to be special. So loved what you did there. But for those who haven't seen it, let's unravel the vision of Metapolis for them. Tell us, right? I think this is the part that you live for. So I'll give you the stage. Tell us a bit about what you're doing there.
so see, actually, what again, I just want to iterate that Metaverse is an iteration to the internet as we know it today. It's going to be the internet of tomorrow morning. I'm not saying the future, the tomorrow morning. It's very present. So the reason, the everything, the design, the elements, the user experience, everything around it is built around the concept of skeuomorphism. I don't know
Hmm.
how many of you know about it, but for those of for you who know it, it's great. I'm a huge believer of skeuomorphism because, and again, Apple did the same thing, right? When Apple launched the iPhone, they did the same thing. Skeuomorphism is where you make things so familiar that people associate it with what they do currently. That's why if you
Uh-huh.
see the Apple iPhones icons, they have this blends, they have this gradients that make it look 3D. So obviously, because when we grow up, you are inspired by the greats in this industry, right? Because that's where we look out to for inspiration, and
For sure.
we derive heavily from the likes of
Hmm.
Steve Jobs, because
Hmm.
I personally want it to be simple, and I want it to be easy to use and easy to get started. And I don't
Yeah.
want to running a tutorial on how to get into the metaverse, because it should be second nature for anyone who wants to get in there. It should be like, hey, okay, because the experience of today of digital, earlier the bank system was to go into the bank, take your checkbook and withdraw cash, and then take it to your to whoever you have to pay. The iteration of the internet was your digital banking, and there was a learning curve there. There was a very steep learning curve. I don't want people to think, I don't want my or the adopters to think that I have another learning curve. No, I want that to be so simple that they just click and then their avatar goes in and does the same thing they do in digital banking. So it's an extension of the internet as we know it. That's the
Hmm.
guiding principle for not just me, but the core team at Metapolis. That includes myself, my co-founders, my core team, everybody. How can we simplify this experience? And that led to the
Hmm.
video that we did. We said people talk about metaverse, but what can they do on the metaverse?
Hmm.
Uh, On that note, actually, there's something really crazy coming up from our team, which will be announced very soon in the next few weeks. I think it's going to be a real treat for the guys.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. No, no, I've been following. I believe you me when he says these words. There's something coming strong. So, Mohan, we're going to look forward to that. But yeah, I think let's go in deeper. I'm trying to understand, where does metaverse, and then Metapolis within Metaverse fit in, right? Tell me that India is going to come up with another layer one. Polygon sort of became, one of the. I would, in a lot of ways, I stopped calling it a layer two, right? It is just what it is. There's just so much value in the ecosystem that it's going to be super powerful. So it is a blockchain in itself, and I'm not going to call it a layer two, anymore. But tell me that you're building the metaverse layer one. Is that what you're going after?
Oh, wow. Okay, you put me in a very tight spot. There are certain terminology I cannot use today because of certain things that I can't reveal right now. But you hit the right notes, Akshay, in what you're talking about. In fact, we are laying the fundamentals of the railroad tracks, the network, the road network for the transportation of the metaverse. I mean, I cannot say it even any more clearer than this. We are building the technology that is going to power the next in open, interoperable, always on social layer of engagement,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be the next internet. So we are doing a lot of work in this space,
Mm-hmm.
including but not limited to data transfers, multiple users, like multi-thousand users in the same instance. We are doing some crazy things in the back end. I mean, I just fall short of breath when I say it, but you have to wait for it, unfortunately, but not for long. I promise
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be a lot going on. But in this space, coming to that topic, the role that the metaverse is going to play for the global market as well as the Indian market is that it is going to create economies that we have never heard of, right? For example, 10, 15 years ago, if someone would come and tell you that you would use your phone to call someone and get into someone else's car and they will drop you somewhere and you will pay them, it would be a super absurd idea because Uber didn't exist at that time. It would be absurd, right? In your free time, going and driving a car and making money would be an absurd thought. But today, that's a reality, and it's built on top of platforms, and they themselves are $100 billion businesses, like multi-billion-dollar businesses, right? Spotify, Uber, they have all
Mm-hmm.
been services. These are economies which have been discovered thanks to internet and thanks to the evolution of really good platforms. Similarly,
Absolutely.
that's going to be the change on the metaverse, and that is exactly what we are driving. And I love your example about Polygon. I agree with you
Mm-hmm.
completely. They are on a sprint. I love it. I love the
Mm-hmm.
energy. We are doing something similar. You will be surprised to see the kind of economies that will evolve on the metaverse. We can't even
Mm-hmm.
imagine the kind of economies right now because
Mm-hmm.
digital fashion, being one of the biggest drivers of metaverse, will drive new economies which we have not imagined,
Mm-hmm.
right? This space is, and in a physical space, when platforms like the App Store or the Play Store have driven the growth of Ubers,
Mm-hmm.
which are limited to a physical realm.
Yeah.
Imagine what kind of economies will be born in a
Mm-hmm.
in an immersive environment where there's no limit to your imagination, right?
Exactly.
And that's where this entire industry is going. And I see that India is going to play a key part in this because of the resources that we have and the knowledge right now that we
Uh-huh.
have. So it is going to be a
I feel
very key place.
I feel there is a lot that time sort of proves, right? But I remember someone mentioning to me that tomorrow your Tesla is gonna earn. So by the way, the Draper Associates Fund is the first investor in Tesla. And then I met Martin, the original founder, at the summit a couple of months ago, and then So this was the Draper Venture Network Summit, and he shared that if it wasn't for Tim, who's the flag bearer of the ecosystem, there would have been no Tesla, because basically there were two VCs that were colliding, and both had like a no shop clause, for them to not go to any other VC. And then Tim sort of met them at an event, and he was like, "I'm investing. Let's see whether they decide to sue us, and if they do, there are plenty of resources to battle it out. We'll figure it out later." And then the other VCs joined in. So blah blah blah. The rest is history. But I was talking to one of my relatives, and he mentioned that my Tesla is going to earn me money in another year or so. Right? It's going to be driving itself to pick up somebody from the airport and drop them off to another part of the states. But interestingly, I think that is something that we're seeing, right? That's going to happen probably as AI agents or AI workers work in the metaverse, right? They're getting paid to build some of the core infrastructure that computer can lay down, right? Because some of this is more, about computation than anything else, right? Or more about, data crunching than anything else. Right?
Yes.
It's interesting how these use cases become alive, like how gamers today earn so much, like Philippines. Yeah, ask them about Axie Infinity, and they'll tell you how big
Oh
of
man.
a boon it is for them, right?
Yeah.
And similarly, we're going to see those economies evolve over metaverse, platforms, and potentially layer ones. And I'll also particularly hint at where I'm coming with this analogy from. So I was talking to 2017, okay, late 2017, Anurag, one of the co-founders of Polygon. So we were meeting for a dinner, and drinks, and so I was talking to him about how Polygon is evolving, and where did, because this came from a hackathon, really, right? And so he mentioned that, Akshay, for the for the roadways, if there's so much traffic, there has to be a highway that has to be built on top, right? And when you said the railways and the networks that will power the ecosystems of railways, those effects, I realized that this is exactly a few years here and there, but kind of the same ideology, and hence I brought the layer one into equation. But again, I think diversing too much into the future, let's bring into the current. Everybody's heard of SaaS, but the word on the street that's exciting is Metaverse as a service, right?
Yeah.
How do you see things unfolding? As the metaverse or the immersive internet becomes mainstream.
Actually, I remember using this word for the first time. I haven't seen it anywhere, and
Uh-huh.
I think I coined this term, and I'm pretty sure I
Uh-huh.
coined it back in. I sent out decks to people saying that here I am building the metaverse as a service when nobody heard
Uh-huh.
about metaverse as a service, right? In fact, I started getting attention after Facebook rebranded to Meta, and that's when people actually came to understand what Meta is. Until then, I was shouting on the top of my lungs, saying, "Look, it is a space," and then we have to build. We are allowing you to build it. See,
Uh-huh.
software as a service, SaaS is a model where all of the heavy lifting and under the hood services are
Mhm.
handled by the provider, while the partner focuses on building their experience. And
Yeah.
if I am a website, for example, that build I'm an architecture company and I'm an architect
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
designs beautiful buildings, I should not be in the business of building a website because I don't want to go through the learning curve of building a website. It's not my job.
Makes sense.
I
Hmm.
should rather focus on acquiring great people and designing great architectures, and that's my focus, right? That's the same thing for the metaverse. We are akin to that service. On Web 2.0, the services that let you easily build and deploy websites, that could be Shopify or Squarespace or Wix. We are that service and much more for the metaverse. So, going back 2 minutes to what we discussed about the railroad networks for infrastructure, this is where I think the first step has to happen, because not building see building a metaverse presence is not an easy thing, and it's not cheap. Again, similarly, if you go back to the early days of computer, when IBM had those massive computers which filled up an entire auditorium, right? It would cost you millions of dollars to set up a computer. Today I can have a computer which is m- many times more powerful for a fraction of that cost, for $1,000, right? The same thing applies for the same thing applied for the internet, and the same thing applies for the metaverse. We should be, we cannot take the same time, we cannot expect people, to have the same learning curve or the time to adopt metaverse as they did to the internet. Internet took, let's say, 2 decades to be what it is today. We can't expect the metaverse to be 2 decades, because most of the work has already been done. We have to extend it. So now the job of early adopters and the job of early leaders in this space is to make sure that people can very quickly come in, establish their presence, and focus on what they do. Now, if you take the same example of an architect, we allow the architects to come. Earlier on in Web 2.0, they would have photos of their designs and they would have maybe pictures. But here we allow architects to create a city, put their buildings there, and let people explore
Mm-hmm.
it through
Mm-hmm.
through browsers, through mixed reality, through virtual reality. Imagine how much more they can inspire. For someone like Zaha Hadid, for example, who built the world's some of the best architectures, this is going to be a completely different level. And imagine how many more Zaha Hadids are out there unable to showcase their talent. This is the perfect platform. You can get online for
Uh-huh.
a fraction of the cost. So that's
Absolutely. And do you see some of these guys coming on board already? Where is the Metapolis ecosystem at?
We've been very fortunate. We've been very blessed in this space. We have a very hardworking team, very established set of founding team. So right from the word go, we have been really bombarded with not just inquiries but partners who want to be a part of the ecosystem. Uh, we
Uh-huh.
have been we have been very careful in trying to build those experiences. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we are all people who believe in quality rather than quantity, so we are taking a minimum, um, we are taking whatever we can fit on our plate and then building it. As of
Mm-hmm.
now, we have double digit number of metaverse experiences we are building for people, and they're all from the they are top, like they are the best in their industry. In fact, we have
Uh-huh.
three of the top 10 esports teams as our clients, and we are doing some really crazy things in this space. So again, being an interoperable, open, limitless, and social engagement
Uh-huh.
layer with the mass on top, we are the perfect place for partners to come in, because we are a no hassle place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, what drives this space is the number of user people that visit and experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Together with the partners that we have access to millions of users, and we can cross pollinate our metaverse experiences with the same set of users. So that's how we have structured this whole platform.
Yeah, I see interoperability and cross pollination, two of the things mentioned. So definitely see that world sort of where one is teleporting from, let's say, sandbox to uh, uh, if not Minecraft, at least to Decentraland. And the
Yeah.
interesting part is I'm so happy that at the fund. We're related to both the companies, one as an investor and one as as an LP. So I think the world is in at an interesting phase wherein some of the inventions that we're helping create are as you said cross pollinating at the moment. But again, I think all of this is super fancy. The wearing the VC hat. Pardon me if this annoys you a bit, but tell me about your North Star and what metrics are you tracking to get to it. Sort of gives a reality kind of check to your vision as which is pretty big and difficult to follow, to be honest.
Yeah. So Akshay, just to as a founder and also as a CEO, uh, my job is to be very, 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 very clear as to what I'm here to do. Right.
Yeah.
So with great pain, me and our co-founders have brought everything down into one single line. So as the co-founder and CEO of this company, my North Star, my vision will be to build the next open,
Mm-hmm.
limitless, always on
Mm-hmm.
social layer of engagement, which will become the next internet as we know it. That's it. That's it. That's exactly what I'm building. Everything
Mm-hmm.
else I do is leading towards it. Anything I do after I wake up, from the time I wake up till the time I go to sleep, everything I do will converge, will meet, will go to this point. That is the vision. So to make that happen, the kind of things that we are tracking are the digital identities, for example. And this comes
Mm-hmm.
back to what you talked about, the transition between Sandbox to Decentraland, or from there to Metapolis, any part of Metapolis, or from there to Axie Infinity. It could be from
Mm-hmm.
anywhere to anywhere, right? So the kind of, whenever you travel across the metaverse, you have the core becomes identity,
Absolutely.
right? And that has to be a tracking metric. So digital identity is at the core of Metapolis. So there are some core pillars that we use to
Mm-hmm.
track our progress, and we measure ourselves on how well we are building this and strengthening those.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if you look at digital identity, the openness of the platform, uh, how much of metaverse as a service can we extend to partners, whether designing their own metaverses or opening it up to creator economies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Always on. So we the biggest challenge is, again, I think we'll come to this later, is metaverse is a intensive uh, space, right? It is not
Yeah,
simple.
for sure. For sure.
Being always on, being the social, being also the universal metaverse currency in this space. So if
Uh-huh.
you are traveling between multiple metaverses, let's say if you are in London, and if you have to go to Bond Street and spend money in US dollars, and go to the next street and spend in pounds, it might not be easy, right? It's very tough. How it's a no go. So building the digital currencies is going to be another key metric, and how it is being acceptable into that, and
Mm-hmm.
interoperability. So all of this kind of lead to the vision that we have. We are tracking it very thoroughly. In fact, my entire team works around these things. So
Mm-hmm.
my one liner and these metrics, and we have other metrics around users and people coming in, onboarding onto this, time spent on it, gamification, objectives, avatars. There are multiple things, but they kind of are like really at the you know at the next level. But the this is the gist of how we are building and tracking stuff.
You,
I hope
you
it
know,
helps.
interesting. I'll pull you back into philosophy a bit. Uh, when Steve Jobs tried to reinvent the mobile interface, the interesting part was he did not have one mobile designer on the team, right? What does it take to create a metaverse? Like what I think tell me a bit about, because I see a lot of engineering happening, a lot of rendering technology sort of being interfaced with, a lot of, I would say, real estate developers that are not really building any real estate, but I don't know what. Like, so what is the method to the madness?
Wow, this is a chaotic space, man. There is no method to madness. The crazier you are, the better it is. I mean, I am someone who really, and I am actually someone who really pushes the boundaries on how far
Uh-huh.
you can go. Like, I am someone who, who pushes not just limits, but also the people that I work with.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
by now, people who work with already know that. I expect like an insane amount of innovation and creativity and output from them, including myself,
Uh-huh.
which I don't see it in a good way, not in a bad way, in a healthy way. We are obsessed about quality,
Mm-hmm.
but see what's happening now. Actually, again, this is important to flag, since it's an important conversation. Also, is
Mm-hmm.
that because of the hype around the metaverse, there are a lot of players who are coming out with, let's say, a gamified experience.
Sure.
It could take a few hours to build it, and
Mm-hmm.
saying, look, we have a metaverse.
Uh-huh.
It really makes me laugh, and I'm really laughing now, actually, because
Uh-huh.
gamified experiences are part of the experience of metaverse, but they are not the metaverse, right? A metaverse is about socially engaging, connecting experiences, and at the heart of it is meaningful experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So if I play a racing game,
Uh-huh.
and if I have if someone says I'm building a metaverse, and it's a racing game, it it is a part of a metaverse. It is not the metaverse by itself. It's a part. It's an example. It's gamified version, but it's also a part.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good part. because it's entertainment. You could put it
Mm-hmm.
as play to earn, right? You can have other things around it. But
Uh-huh.
when talking about the metaverse, and everyone should know it, it's not
Uh-huh.
easy. Just like how people, let's talk for example, iPhone. While
Mm-hmm.
building the iPhone, smartphones existed at that time,
Yeah.
but they're not the
Mm-hmm.
smartphones we know today. Steve Jobs created a whole new innovation, right? Innovation was
Mm-hmm.
the core of this, because before that we had 3G phones. In fact, I remember
Mm-hmm.
using 3G phones when I was in Australia. I think I remembered using a touchscreen LG phone with a stylus and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But the insane amount of engineering that goes
Uh-huh.
into building something meaningful that can be
Yeah.
used by billions of users. Because
Mm-hmm.
when let's say the internet started for few thousands of users who were ready to adopt
Yeah.
it, who had
Uh-huh.
computers. But today, when
Absolutely.
you're building something, you're engineering something, you're already building it for the 3.2 billion users who are already gamers. They're already sitting on high end computers who can render
Absolutely.
amazing experiences. And they
Uh-huh.
have, if they have the resources available to move to purchase that hardware, they can invest in
Mm-hmm.
further hardware. Like they could even
Mm-hmm.
invest in a VR treadmill or a VR headset. They could, but I'm not saying that
Uh-huh.
metaverse is related to that. So your bar already is high. We're already attempting something which is already high. And
Mm-hmm.
there's estimated to be another 300 million users coming to into this space, especially into the Web3
Mm-hmm.
space, not the metaverse, from the traditional space. So you you already have to build for volumes. So if you're
Uh-huh.
saying that I spent 2 days building a gamified experience and come to my metaverse, what happens
Mm-hmm.
if 10,000 users come and hit your server? That's gone.
Mm-hmm.
People in the tech industry who are listening to this will understand better. And I'm saying this because I have to make it. It's a great
Mm-hmm.
platform to speak. When we build websites earlier, when in my past ventures where I was building healthcare systems, we used to fight for every byte of data. Like I used to
Uh-huh.
talk my tech team, I used to like literally push them to reduce bytes of data in transfer so that
Uh-huh.
the load is lower.
Uh-huh.
And a website could be delivered in, let's say, 3 megabytes, a
Yeah,
meaningful
absolutely.
even 1 meg,
Uh-huh.
I don't. But if you have to build a meaningful metaverse, everything has to be three-dimensional. A three-dimensional asset is built on polygons and vertices, and browsers render it differently. Browsers use
Uh-huh.
graphic engines to render something like this. So there's so insane amount
Uh-huh.
of mathematics that goes behind it. Just because you're
Mm-hmm.
typing a URL and it's loading doesn't mean it's another website. There is an insane amount of engineering that goes into building it. So if I'm building a website, a metaverse, and it has 10 buildings,
Uh-huh.
that itself is equivalent to like 20 megabytes of space. uh,
Uh-huh.
I, well, I could or we can compress it to a lot and make it, let's say, 2 megabytes. But then you have textures on it, you have normal maps, you have light data, you have rendering. Because people, if you see our community our community is passionate about Metapolis, and then they
Mm-hmm.
comment on the examples on using a Unreal Engine 5 level experience like photorealism versus
Uh-huh.
something like 2000 level game like Tomb Raider.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Difference is I have the capability. Metapolis has the capability to deliver a photorealistic experience, but your browser
Uh-huh.
doesn't have the ability to render it. If I
Interesting.
have to cater to 300 million users, I have to find what your browser can use, because I don't
Uh-huh.
want to create a walled garden that only people with expensive hardware can use. So
Absolutely.
engineering, our core, that's where our core is.
Uh-huh.
That's where the engineering goes. A lot of engineering goes into building data compression systems, building
Uh-huh.
algorithms, reduce hundreds of megabytes of data and bring it into tens of megabytes or even single digits, compressing large scale textures. In fact, at Metapolis we use intense machine learning algorithms to compress 4K textures and bring them into kilobytes without losing
Uh-huh.
detail. There's an insane amount of work that is being done in the background, and that's why we are a platform, because we don't want others to come and reinvent the wheel. We are saying, here's the
Absolutely.
platform I'm giving you, please come start using this and build the next experience that you have to build, right? So right from data compression, asset compression. Now once this is done, the next set is going to be servers. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Google, everyone knows that Google homepage just has one single text box and one logo. And
Uh-huh.
they run so many data centers, millions of clusters just to.
Absolutely.
And if I'm saying that I'm going to have the same number of users, imagine how much of bandwidth I should have as a metaverse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So there is engineering there. So how can I reduce the amount of data being transferred? Should I use high performance computing? Should I, in fact, you won't believe that we are discussing with industry leaders to bring HPCs into this. In fact, I am looking for the day when biological computing comes into this,
Uh-huh.
quantum computing comes into this, because that's when it's going to be amazing, right?
Uh-huh.
Being passionate about this, being the pioneers in this space, this is the kind of thinking that is required. We are not
Uh-huh.
here for the short term. We are not here to just say that we are building something. We are here to build the next internet. And it is a
Hmm.
bold statement, and I will stick by that. So, yeah,
Interesting. So I think if I were to sort of you know articulate the technical challenges, I think one was on the rendering side of things. Both client side, which you refer to very brilliantly as a browser, right? Browser sort of gets capabilities from the handsets you hold today, right? If the websites of today are going to take the shape of metaverses in the future, this the computation that you hold in your palm is going to be instrumental to enabling that. And that's where
yes,
the client side rendering comes into play. And that those are the challenges that you mentioned in terms of rendering it on the client side. But on the bandwidth side, it's the channel that you take it through, right? But also that bandwidth is kind of linked to the computation that are there on server side rendering as well, right? So all
exactly.
of this, I think, even if it's sort of laid so simply, the amount of the amount of depth you have to go to solve each and every problem is magnanimous. We remember
Oh
the
my
time
God.
when internet was not able to load these live chats, right? Today we
Yeah,
take it for granted, right?
yeah.
And tomorrow I hope in 2028 to 2030 we're like metaverse is here, and there's no pixelating that's happening in the metaverse. And hopefully, judging by the love that your community is showing on the chats. By the way, there are about 200 comments that I cannot possibly showcase, right? But again, Mohan, I think you're creating a wonderful ecosystem. I see
Thank
there's going to be a lot of challenges on the way, but I see ecosystem as being the real supporter, because I feel inventions are not made by just leaders but also by people that support those leaders, right? Because it's the environment you allow them to function in, right? If today what we're seeing with the Wazir X's of India, I feel I'm not so happy, right? I've been dabbling with a lot of things on the regulatory side, trying to understand, trying to interface with a lot of regulators. In fact, it's very less known that we were the first ones to share a policy report, wherein I think about 140 odd or 200 ish founders participated, right? Just as a public consultation drive to suggest to the government on how they should regulate it, right? But
right.
tell me a little bit about, how does the ecosystem, seem like in India and across the globe? Right. I know you're also doing a lot of things in Dubai. Some of the company entities might be asked there, but tell us, how ready is the ecosystem really?
So there are multiple players in this space, Akshay, as we already know,
Mm-hmm.
and you coming from
Uh-huh.
this and being a veteran in this space know a lot about it. But for the
Uh-huh.
for my friends who are viewing this, uh,
Mm-hmm.
actually, can I get a count on how many are viewing this? Do you have a count by any
Yes.
chance?
Yeah. So we've touched about 100 odd people.
Wow.
I think since about 20 minutes ago. Yeah.
Oh wow, great, amazing, love it.
Yeah.
So ecosystem it's like multiple pillars, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
the regulatory, you have again the compliance in regulatory.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Apart from that, you have the people user slash people ecosystem, you have the partner ecosystem, and then you have the revenue driver ecosystem, and then you have the
Uh-huh.
biggest ecosystem of advertisers,
Uh-huh.
which has become the backbone of the internet as we know today, right? They are the ones who are driving
Absolutely.
value in it. So
Uh-huh.
it is not a straightforward answer, but I think in terms, I see that, and I've been working across multiple jurisdictions,
Mm-hmm.
and because as a part of my job is to make sure that we are whiter than white in whatever we are doing, and to
Mm-hmm.
comply with the regulatory aspects, because it's a new space, people don't understand it that much.
Uh-huh.
But I see that all the agencies that we're talking to, and I'm actually happy to say that, are very pro. Like they are willing to learn more, they are stretching, they know that it's growing rapidly, and they are the ones who are saying that, look, we are coming up with thoughts. In fact, they're even open to suggestions. They
Mm-hmm.
may or may not implement it, because that's a completely different process which we have no we are not part of, but they
Mm-hmm.
are very open, and they are working really hard, and I have only good things to share about the regulatory and compliance. Also on the legal front, I see that there are a lot of companies, law firms, who are learning about this space and coming into advice, uh, companies who are coming up in this space, and that's both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, Not just the builders but also the
Yeah.
providers, not just the
Mm-hmm.
brands but also the advertisers. So now they are
Absolutely.
kind of creating this ecosystem to create a balance, so that everyone lives in harmony. Basically,
Sure.
the end goal of any venture, any
Uh-huh.
effort, is harmony and growth in
Mm-hmm.
whatever way it is, and while doing it, having a lot of.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
see that ecosystem is ready. We are seeing a lot of
Uh-huh.
adoption, especially if you take the examples of Sandbox or Decentraland, who are already live. Axie Infinity, as you said, has created a new economy for a whole country, right?
Yeah.
People's lives changed. So
Uh-huh.
the ecosystem is there. It's
Yeah.
there for people who want to come to this space. There's a lot of help. It is not new. There might be a bit of navigation, because, again, if you come up with a new economy, people would not, like Uber had, they had issues with taxi unions because it was not
Yeah.
regulated, right? It's space,
Uh-huh.
but they worked through it.
Yeah.
Similarly, if you come up with a new idea in this space, you will have challenges, but that does not mean that the ecosystem is not ready. Adoption is
Mm-hmm.
really fast, but you have to work through it with patience, because you're an early innovator. All innovators have
Yeah.
this.
Uh-huh.
Well, Galileo was for saying that the Earth was not the center. He got into trouble with the church, right? Similarly,
Uh-huh.
all pioneers have to face some sort of challenges, but if you stick to it long enough, if you're there for the long term, you are here to win.
No, absolutely. I think I love the fact that you have a very positive outlook towards everything. In the interest of time, I'm not going to be able to allow a lot of questions that has come about, but I think Adam here asks us, will metaverse be able to solve unemployment issue? I think I'll let you answer that, Mohan, while I sniff through some of the other questions. Right, go for it.
Yeah. So who are Adam Mills? Hi, Adam. I think this is one of the best questions. I was hoping to touch about it, and talk about it also. In fact, it was a part of my talking points. I'm glad you brought it up. As I said again, and I will keep iterating the fact that metaverse is the future of work is on the metaverse, and there's no other way. Since the pandemic, everyone started to work from home. In a way, today you are living in sort of like the precursor of the metaverse, right? When you wake up, you open your phone, you watch your favorite reels, or you watch your favorite content, right? Even parents, even the generation older to us, are living on the mobile phone. They are more connected with people that they have not met for years. So we are living in a precursor to the metaverse, and right now work from home is sort of very, it's kind of an iteration towards that. But moving forward, most of the work will happen on the metaverse. For existing jobs, they will be converted. So new kind of jobs will look like, let's say for example, I'll actually lay it out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say for something like Sandbox, right? A metaverse, there are so many millionaires, Ethereum millionaires, or Bitcoin millionaires, who went and purchased land there, and
Mm-hmm.
they exist there. Looking at that kind of wealth for millennials, banks understood that that kind of wealth is with people who are sitting there, and they then it gave birth to private banking inside the metaverse. And that's why you see
Mm-hmm.
banks coming into the metaverse, setting up their shops. I don't know how many of you saw the entry of banks. Now the next iteration of jobs are going to be bank tellers on the metaverse, because again, digital identities are going to power the metaverse. It's the core of the metaverse, right? So you are going to have digital tellers. You will walk into the bank, you'll have digital tellers. Your loan processing and your other parts there, you will have new roles there. uh, on the other aspect, you will have completely new economies. Think of, for example, a guided yoga or meditation session using a VR headset. Now you will give rise to this will give rise to a lot of new roles: yoga teachers, wellness teachers, guided tours. I really possibly cannot imagine all the new opportunities that are going to come up, but I am sure there is going to be a lot of employment coming from the metaverse, and I'm very positive it's going to be a $1 trillion industry. Let's say.
Super. I think Mohan beautifully answered. So many more avenues to build. There's a new world under construction. I'm not sure about Mars, but definitely the metaverse world is getting constructed, and so happy to hear that there are the right people that are sort of at it. The inventors like you, are kind of focused in doing it the right way, and I see a lot of love getting shared on, on our various channels, be it YouTube, be it Facebook, Twitter. I think we see a lot of fulfillment or satisfaction. And I see some of these people really recognizing you because, a lot of people apparently call you K, right? And I think Mohan, I'm gonna follow that now.
That's my digital
Right?
identity. A is my digital identity.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be using the digital identity, the coolness factor that your meta fluence or meta influence brings along with you. But again, I think lovely to speak with you, Mohan. I've taken enough of your time, and I think more conversations to come, judging by the amount of questions that are left in the chat. But I feel some of the really good things that are to happen, in the metaverse are going to come from India, right? Judging by the conversation we had today, just phenomenal to see. The ecosystem also supporting you, because, and this is not just India. I think globally, I
Yes,
see a
yes.
lot of
It's
these
going to be a
people.
global phenomenon.
Yeah. So lovely to have you, and I'll leave you with one ask, because you took out this much time and extended at least about 20 minutes, right? So you get to ask one thing, and we'll close it off after that.
I get to ask something.
Yeah. For your time that you took out for the community.
Oh wow. Okay. I don't know. Actually, what I would can I post it on Twitter? Can I think, because it's a good
Okay.
opportunity, right? Can I
Uh-huh.
think about it and then post it on Twitter, and then maybe the community
For
can
sure.
answer that?
For sure. Then
I
I'll
have like
on the
500 things
email.
to ask, but
Yeah. Please do that. We'll retweet it as well. But I think on the end of if people want to get involved with you, I see some of the folks are excited about the vision and wanna see how can they join the team, right? So what's the right channel to reach out? Can you share that?
yeah. So we are open. We are hiring like-minded people on the team, so they can DM on Twitter. They
Mm-hmm.
can hashtag Metapolis. They just tweet on
Mm-hmm.
Twitter and then hashtag Metapolis, or they can DM us, or they can reach out to us on LinkedIn. We are on YouTube. We are on email. So email is hr at uh, metapolis.studio. So they can email
Uh-huh.
hr at metapolis.studio. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the best way is to just tweet and say, look, I want to be a part of your team. And our social media is going to pick it up. Just tag us. We are very social people.
Oh, by the way, we're talking about social interactions. K here was Metapolis, and how Zilliqa pumped has a correlation, direct correlation. I'm not sure how many of you guys have been following, but I follow the cryptoverse very closely, right? And the Zilliqa pump happened very close to when Metapolis was announced, and I feel there's like a huge involvement of the Zilliqa ecosystem as well. Glad to see some of our previous partners and the new partners are sort of getting along really well.
Yeah, I feel really blessed that the community has really accepted us, and I think it's the credit goes back to the community for really believing in the project and buying in more into the blockchain that supports us and is a part of our core. I think we have a lot to give back to the community. So I think I know what I want to ask now, Akshay. I think I want to use that life.
Uh-huh.
If you guys have inspiration on how you want to look your ideal metaverse experience to be, I'm very eager to learn that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so there's countless possibilities. I think there's going to be.
Nice one, nice one. I'm going to come up with an answer to that. Yeah. So let me do a little more digging. Let me form my thoughts, and then I'll articulate it for you. And I'll let the community also, remember the hashtag Metapolis. It'll get you some eyeballs as well, considering the amount of attention that Zilliqa got when Metapolis was launched, right?
Yeah, of course, follow me on Twitter, and I keep saying some interesting things. Sometimes I'm usually quiet,
Uh-huh.
but
Uh-huh.
whenever I have something to share, I will happily share. So, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. So thanks, Mohan. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I think this has been fantastic. Something brilliant that's happening is that India is may have a few attempts, but high quality attempts at I think the broader trends in the tech world, right? And I see this the company as well as this trend really going strong, right? So thanks to everyone, Mohan. Thanks again for joining.
Thanks, Akshay, for having me. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you,
All
everyone,
right,
for being
buddy.
here. All the 100 people who joined. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, and still strong at 91.
oh wow! So see
Perfect.
you all in Metapolis then.
Yeah, yeah, guys, feel free to check out Metapolis, and some of the stuff is going to be really mind blowing. But do check out the intro video. That is unreal. I love it. And kudos to you and your team, Mohan.
Thanks, Akshay. Thanks. Always pleasure to learn from you.